What's up, girl in the back? Hi. Hi.
I love your show!
Oh, wait. Come down here.
You don't even know where you are.
I have some stuff.
Voodoo donuts!
Voodoo don't. Please take a voodoo donut.
Please feed me.
I called it
Yes.
cookies and cream like
Yes.
you cannot take
There
bring it up
you
for the
go.
whole class.
This, you just put one foot in the other.
Yeah, feed me.
They're the best in
And give me a Titan.
You want to walk more briskly because you need a calorie deficit before you eat one of these.
Just don't take the Oreo one, Lisa.
Yeah, pick anything.
Don't take the Captain Crunch one either. Or that one.
Don't take the Oreo one.
Take the boring one. There's a really boring one. That one. Take that one. You can take the Captain Crunch. You want to take? No, take the Cocoa Puffs. Take the Captain Crunch, but take the Cocoa Puffs.
Have your panel.
Just take the box and walk away.
All right, pay no attention to the woman diving into the donut box.
I was told that I really needed to stop by that place and get some donuts. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll just get some,
I feel like I'm not able to get them.
That's a good one.
Big one.
That's a good one.
I was like, okay, a dozen donuts between 4 people. That's not a big deal. And then one of the 4 of us is not here. And then the donuts are the size of like double cheeseburgers.
I'm pretty sure they're called voodoo donuts because when you eat one, you feel someone putting a knife in your heart.
Yeah.
Like, oh God! Oh! That is 1980s breakfast cereal on a donut that's so big it doesn't even have a goddamn hole.
And that is a day and a half's worth of recommended calorie intake.
That is the Pangea of donuts.
How a dozen of these?
4 people can eat these.
Yeah. Is it good, Lisa? All right, so
Hello everyone.
hey everybody.
To Titan Talk. Now, before we all introduce ourselves, I'm going to take the initiative as commander of the Scout Regiment. Yes, that's what it's called.
Commander AFN.
I'm going to lay down a couple ground rules. It's a Q&A panel, so you bring the Q, we provide A. That means question and answer.
Oh, I have lots of questions.
I'm sure you do. They may not all get answered, but that's fine. We'll try to answer as many as we
But
can.
that's
Anyway,
fine.
so that's the first. So the thing is, so this is a Titan panel. So all of us have a wide-ranging careers, but please, we're here all weekend. Let's keep it Titan-related. The questions.
Oh, I can do that.
Cool.
Thank you. I believe in you. You
calm
can
down.
do it.
Yeah.
So Titan questions. Also, I tend personally, I think I speak for Lauren as well. Mike, feel free to say no. I'm wrong. I like I love questions. I love questions that we
Yeah.
have to riff on. I love
Okay.
questions that kind of create a dialogue
Yeah.
on it. My least favorite
What is
kind of question
Yeah.
is
I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
what?
What's your favorite type of question?
God! My least favorite type of question are questions pertaining to favorites. Favorites are so, the favorites question is lame. I don't care what it is. What's your favorite color? Why do you care? What can we possibly have between us that's meaningful from knowing my favorite color is purple? Leave me alone.
I really thought your least favorite question was going to be about OTPs.
That's my second least favorite question. Listen, shipping is a beautiful institution. Far be it from me to tell you shouldn't fantasize about
Yeah,
whoever
UPS
you
is
want to
great.
fantasize about. But having said that, Attack on Titan is a bloody, death-filled show in which, spoilers, like the main character's mother dies horribly in the first episode. If all you can think about is who's stooping who, we have failed as actors and adapters. So don't ask us the questions. I said stooping.
Stooping.
That's amazing.
Stooping. So please, man, and it's just sad. Like, who do you like? Who's your OTP? Who do you ship? I'm like, the characters, the entire cast, and life. That's who I ship. That's who I would like to see together in that
Yes.
show. So please, let's not explore that territory
All right.
because I just don't feel it.
And I'll throw in a 1 or 2 additional things before we introduce ourselves.
Please
and
do.
the other thing that I would ask is there are some folks who only watch the anime. So if you have like Lauren. So please no questions about like stuff in the manga that hasn't been animated yet or stuff in the future and stuff like that. Just for the folks who want to just watch it instead of read it. Is that cool? Cool.
I'll
Thanks so
try.
much. So yeah, existing material only.
I'll try.
I'll try.
No,
I'll
no
try
try.
too.
Hanji.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Hanji.
With that in mind,
Yes.
hello, I'm Mike McFarland. I was the ADR director for Attack on Titan, as well as the voice of Horseface Jean Kirstein. Why the long face? Oh, it's John.
Hi guys, I'm Landa. I'm the voice of Annie Lionheart. Thank you. The voice of Annie Lionheart, aka who has not seen the whole anime? Female Titan.
One person's like,
I'm too loud.
Hey,
oh, is it my? No, sorry. I'm J. Michael Tatum. Yeah,
Yes,
J. Michael
yes.
Tatum. I play Commander Irving of the Scout Regiment, the Captain Eyebrows. Sexy eyebrows.
Commander Erwin with a nice German W.
Irving. Schmitz. Well, we didn't go with Schmitz.
Erwin.
Hey, that's my last
But in
name.
my heart, but Schmitz.
Yeah, Schmidt was talked about. Because
You
it's
know, in my heart, he will always be Schmidt.
Schmidt.
I call him Schmitty. It's a thing. We share it. I play Commander Irving, and I was also the lead adaptive writer for the English version. So
yeah.
you have a combined experience of a lot of people.
Yes, yes.
I actually have a perfect way to start this panel. Hey Mike, how
Yes.
do you pronounce Mikasa's name?
I think you just did.
Yay. Exactly. What is it not?
It's not Mikasa.
Not like Mikasa, Sukasa.
Well, strangely enough, and I'll go into a little bit of a story about that since you brought it up. I figured it would be a question at some point anyway. Because I did have some people ask me about that, like, why are you saying it wrong? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, it should be Mikasa. I'm like, well, it shouldn't. And the reason that I say that is I researched it beforehand, and also while the show was in production, I had the good fortune to meet with some folks from Kodansha and TV Tokyo and some other Japanese companies, and I was like, hey, this character here, here's the kanji for it, and here's some of the Japanese seiyuu track. How would you say this name, just out of curiosity? And like, Mikasa? I was like, okay, cool. I think, and so that was good enough for me also. But then the nice clincher of the whole thing was at Anime Revolution in Vancouver last year. The seiyuu for Armin was there. And so I got to sit down with a interpreter and go back and forth, like, find out all the things that she's worked on. And I came across that name. I'm like, this opportunity will not happen very often for me. So if you don't mind, I was going to ask a couple of production questions. And she's like, yes. First of which is Miss Ackerman, her given name. How do you say that? She's like, Mikasa? I was like, cool. Well, I was just making sure because there seems to be a very loud, insistent group of Americans who think that it should be Mikasa. And this is the facial expression and the tone in which she replied to that. Mikasa? Like, not just that's wrong, but like, why the hell would you think that? So, yeah, there is that. So, yes, it was researched and backed up by multiple native speakers who aren't.
We do put a lot of work into what we do, because it's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that that's out of the way, as far as a question from our panelists,
Right.
who else has questions? There's one right here in the front.
Hi, Sailor Neptune.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh no, I dropped it.
Oh.
It's all good.
Sorry, I'm recording. So first off, I love all of you. I've been
thank you
dying
so
to
much.
especially meet you, Tatum. All my friends brag all the
I
time
especially
that
love
they've
him,
met
too.
you. And they pranked me one
fond of me,
time by
too,
sticking
it's
your photo in my locker and they called it Tatum.
You put my photo in
No,
your
my
life?
friends just pranked me on April Fool's Day, stuck your photo in my locker and like, LOL, you're a loser. And I cried.
Your friends suck. You need new friends.
She's got me.
No, she wants new friends. Who wants to be this girl's friend? She's pretty awesome. They would never treat you
All
like
new
that.
friends that aren't going to take
All
me.
new friends that aren't going to
And
take you.
so, my question is if you had to live in the world of Attack on Titan, would you rather choose the Survey Corps, the military police, or the garrison unit?
So by the military, but the first one would be the
MPs.
scout regiment. The first one was the option. The first.
Right, scout
yeah.
regiment, and
Yeah.
then let's say scout regiment, garrison, and
Military.
Military police.
Military police being the safest.
Yeah.
Just say yeah.
The cowards.
interior job, yeah.
Well, no, they got to guard all the rich people.
Yeah,
That's a rough
so
job.
important.
Yeah, that's true. That's a rough
Yeah, and they got to get all the cats out of the trees. You know, make the drunks go home. Hey, you guys are being too rowdy. You know, that's their job.
Little old ladies call them all the time and complain to their neighbors. They gotta go check that out.
Yeah. I don't know.
Military police, yeah?
Yeah, military.
No.
Well, hold on. Like, it's hard to say because everyone would like to feel that when the chips are down, that you would be part of the hero squad.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's not true because then the heroes wouldn't stand out as heroes because they would be just the few and far between. So it can't be that like, oh, I would be a scout. Well, so everyone's a scout? Everyone's awesome?
Right.
Nobody wants to live?
Right. That's a good point, because I would love to think of myself as brave enough to be like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do the scout regiment, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to extend our territories and win them back, whatever we can. And the truth is, I'd probably get out there and be like, there's giants! Because they scare the piss out of me. Like, they're crazy looking things. And I'd
Yeah.
be like, yeah, we're going to be brave. And I would just wet myself and have to run as fast as
It
them.
didn't go into it in the show, but I would, if it was set up the same way that like some of our military service is, where you can go in and do a specific amount of time, and that be your run, and then you can either do it again or not.
Right.
I would like to believe that I would at least do one turn in one tour of duty.
That may all.
I know it may
that
be
all
really
you
short.
guys
Yeah,
do.
the tour of one town. But I would like to believe that I would do that.
Yeah.
But most of them didn't live past a year.
Hush you. Well, it doesn't have to be a year. It could be like, you know, like for them, I would think that 2 months would be a long time
2 months
to be in the military.
Happy birthday!
Yeah. Yeah. Go out on 8 missions or
No,
something.
I mean honestly, as compelling as the show is, and as wonderful as that world is, it's not a lot of fun to contemplate what it would be like living there because it's not supposed to be. Like it's pretty dreadful. I think all the circumstances, like if you were like just admit yourself, I want to be part of the military police, but you have to admit yourself, well, that's I'm just here.
I would just like to get the cats out of the trees.
I just want to, and you'd have to kind of live with yourself knowing that people that also wore the uniform were out there risking their necks while you had a cushy job, and I don't know that I could be very proud of that. No, I'm not. I would probably end up being on the military police because I'm a wuss. But I wouldn't be very proud of myself. In fact, live to fight another day.
I'd like to believe that I would also.
Don't even talk about it. No. Annie, no.
I know.
You killed people!
I did. Sorry, not sorry. I guess she was really petrified.
We weren't even talking about her. That's so mean. Something dead people, awful other thing that happened.
Okay, in a better world where I'm not the the bad person that I
The
am.
evil person of the show.
It's okay.
Killing them.
Jessica Cabello, who is the voice of Hanji, she still has not forgiven me for killing Sonny and Bean. So.
I do not forgive you, ever!
Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, I think in an ideal world, I would love to have the bravery and the courage to join the Scout Regiment. Realistically, probably not. I would also probably not last for a year or a month. So yeah.
Or a day.
Or a day.
I would die in training. Let's face it. I would die in training.
Yeah.
Like I would get killed by my own weapon.
Why would you eat that?
Those guys being carted off in a wagon, and Aaron's more like, what happened to them? Like, oh, they couldn't even cut training. That's you.
That's me.
Yeah. They're gonna go be
I'm
farmers.
at the bottom of that pile.
Yeah.
I was the first one.
You guys need wheat?
Yeah.
That's Tatum.
Right. I couldn't even make it up the gym rope.
Carrots? Tomatoes?
Oh, but Tatum, you're so fabulous.
Fabulous doesn't work against a Titan. I could be fabulous and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? They'd be like,
I have a very
and they would
good
fabulously puke me up later, which is such an insult to injury. Like, right, they kill you and they're like, we didn't even need you.
Yeah.
But,
They make people hairballs.
yeah.
Do we have another question?
More questions,
Oh my
yes,
goodness.
yes.
Okay.
Lauren picked.
Yeah, Soul Eater in the back. Yes.
What's your guys' intake on the yaoi community of the Attack on Titan?
Oh, you weren't here for the first part of that. So I'll just answer for all of us. My feeling on it is Attack on Titan is a violent, bloody show where the person you love may die at any moment and probably will. There's like a 1 in 80 chance. So it's like Game of Thrones, only stuff happens. Sorry. That's a cheap joke. I should have taken that. But it's one of those shows where it is like so dark and violent that the last thing on my mind is who's with who. Because I'm thinking, there's no time. The minute you get in the mood, there's a time.
There's no time for us.
So I don't even want to think about romance in that context. We're like, oh, they make such a cute, and they're dead. Oh, look, he loves dead.
I now pronounce you man and
I now sometimes with a show like that, you gotta like distract yourself and like, oh, he's hot, because otherwise you're focused on all the death and
Talking about
destruction.
Levi, right? Being hot.
Maybe. Hey, I'd let Levi pluck my eyebrows. I have a theory as to why Irving's eyebrows are as bushy as they are, because I feel like at home he's got this wonderful, like, gilded grooming kit. Every time he sits in front of, like a little field mirror or something to be like, like this, just as he's about to pluck that first hair, attack.
Just doesn't have the time.
And off he goes. So like,
getting ready to pluck the hair then. Okay, fine.
I don't think I'm ready for this grooming. Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way about the eyebrow. No. I whenever I watch a show, live action or animated, I can always find, an OTP of some sort. In this show, I honestly can't. It's very difficult because that's not what I focus on. The fact that people are trying to survive in every episode, and the fact that I'm on the edge of my seat just being like, oh my god, who's gonna die next? Not thinking about that, so.
Yeah. It'd be nice if the Titans would just go away and let people get it on, but it's not. It's not gonna happen. It's just not. That's not what they do.
They're inconvenient bastards, aren't they?
If we ever see something like that in the Titan universe, it's going to be like 2 Titans. We're going to be like, oh god! No, you don't even have junk!
They'll make another derpy Titan. So, yeah.
Sorry, no, another question. Shall I pick?
Yeah, Michael, you pick.
Blue hair.
For each of you personally, what was the most difficult part of production for you?
Let's see. There really wasn't one thing that was the most difficult for me because it was all kind of difficult. I took a lot of time selecting the cast while I had the producers above me going, where is it? Why isn't the show already starting? What's going on? Why haven't you picked people yet? I'm like, because I'm trying to hear as many people as possible and pick the best one. Like, go! So like, shh. And I fought for, more time to select the cast that I did. And then since I had a cast that was kind of like spread out all over the United States, it was a matter of, can we hit the television deadlines that we have and the production deadlines we have for the home release and still have all of these people do these parts? Can we make all the flights work and all of that? And then getting the performances out of each person as they come in. We had top-notch actors across the board, but being that, they don't know what it is that I want the moment that they walk in. Like, no bigger, no this, no you're crying, no your mom just died, and all this kind of stuff. Making sure I could get all of those emotional states out within the time frame that I had. It was just a constant battle of people wanting like finished product and me going, no, you'll get it when it's done and it'll be perfect, but you're gonna wait. Yeah. So.
For me, I guess it would just be, personally, it was the Titan screams. Both Bryce and I did scream as the Titans individually during the big battle in the final episode. That was pretty painful. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast doing it, but we had reserved a session just for the screaming. as far as I can remember. So
We definitely put aside some of it, and I think the very, very last thing that you did was the scream in the forest when you were captured.
yes, because those are 3 continuous screams.
Yeah, that was the last thing you recorded. You actually recorded the fight before you did that.
That wasn't as difficult as the forest scream. Dinner. So yeah, no, that was pretty. That was rough, but it was a lot of fun. I had a blast doing it, and I'm so happy with how it sounds. And it's very interesting how you decided to go at the opposite end with the Titan scream.
Not opposite, just a fuller spectrum of sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that was probably the most difficult part of production.
For me, the writing process is the most difficult because it's done months before any of it hits the booth, and so you're kind of the writers are rather isolated. And it was myself and Tyson Reinhardt who worked on the show together, and Tyson was kind of new to writing. He'd only worked on one other show with me at that point, so he was, he was still, and so I was.
He was your Padawan.
He was my Padawan, yeah. And he loved the show, and he brought something so wonderful because he's a kind of military history buff too. So he just the whole sort of ethos of the show really appealed to him. But when you're writing the show, you have to watch the entire thing through. And as a writer, Tyson had the same experience. You're trying to find a voice for all of these characters in English. And as an adaptive writer, you kind of immerse yourself in the world of the show. You study the Japanese side of it, so you know what they're saying, and you can more importantly the subtext, because Japanese is a very, very high context language. So like what they're actually saying is only half of the picture, and you have to find ways to try to communicate that in English speaking, because we're a little more straightforward in English, and so what will communicate this character in English, and it's really so you get really invested in all of these characters in a way that is unique for most of you watching the show. You may have a handful of characters that you kind of find yourself getting attached to, and maybe you have to deal with them dying, and maybe they live or whatever, but like you may be a handful, but when you're writing the show, you get attached to all of them because you're having to give each and every one of them a voice in English, from the writing perspective, and so it hurts you when they die, or it hurts you when they turn out to be not as nice as you thought. You take it personally because you have to kind of be in that emotional state to sort of be in the scene, to write the dialogue for the characters, to understand the conflict and everything that's at stake. So the writing process was really, really intense. When it got around to actually recording it, I found that to be a lot easier for me because I'd already kind of ridden that horse all the way through and seen the whole show, and I was like, oh yeah, this part, I got this, like I'd already suffered through the trauma of the show. So actually going back and recording was just kind of going back and revisiting it, but it wasn't like the way you see it for the first time and then have to try to communicate it to an English-speaking audience. That was the writing, that show in particular was really, really tough. Particularly, and I want to talk about this for a moment, for me, that show, in a lot of ways, when you get past all the really cool outward trappings, the Titans and the training and the military and all that, all of which is super, super cool and an important part of the show. For me, though, beneath the surface, that show is like this sustained meditation on what kind of world we live in where people don't have time to actually talk to each other because things are happening too quickly. You have to marshal so much energy into just the business of surviving that much longer, knowing that you may not, that no one can really own their feelings fully because you can't talk, Like, a great example of that is certain characters that may really love each other in that show, but they never get a chance to be like, hey, I love you, because that would be a really important thing to say, and you have to finesse that out. You can't just be like, yeah, I love you! It doesn't work like that.
Or, and you have really pretty hair.
Right. And the major, like right in the first episode, there's this wonderfully powerful symbol of the whole spirit of the show, and I just want to kind of paint this picture for you because I want to get you thinking about this, because I know you go back and revisit the show, but like one of the most powerful moments in the entire show for me is when his mother dies. And it's not just because his mother dies, that in and of itself is gut-wrenching, but it's specifically what happens and how it pertains to the show being a meditation on people not being able to, like holding back what they want to say because they know they just don't have the time or the space to do it because there's too much going on. When she's there, trapped beneath that, the pier and beam or whatever, and she's telling them to go, and they very reluctantly go, the Titan is coming up behind her, and she knows she's going to die, and she wants she wants Mikasa and Eren to survive, as any mother would probably, but she doesn't want to die either, so there's this horrible personal, end-of-life conflict going on. And what does she do? She says, don't leave me. But she clamps her hand over her mouth so that they will not hear her. And think about that for a moment. Like, she cannot help but want to say, please don't leave me, don't leave me. But there's a deeper part of her that knows they can't hear it because then they'll come back and it'll risk their own lives. And the entire show for me, and the way the characters talk to each other or don't talk to each other, is kind of represented in that really tense, powerful, just tear-jerking moment in the first episode. And that's when you understand everything about, like, wow, these poor people, all they can do is survive. That's all they can do. And it's so tragic and beautiful, and I'm rambling. But that's the only, and I'm only rambling because we're not being besieged by Titans right now.
And as you bring up that story, just because I know that she does not get out to events very much, I wanted to throw props once again to Jessica Kavanaugh, who played Aaron's mother, because she was so very good. Yay, Jessica Kavanaugh.
Breaks my heart every time.
Mike, you can pick something.
Oh, it's my turn to pick?
It is your
Okay, Against the Wall on the back.
In terms of the human race and survival, do you think their choice to barricade themselves all in one spot behind a bunch of walls was the right choice?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a nice question.
I think, yes. I mean, I think that's the best way that they could get around something like that. But I also think that leads to other theories of, is that or is that not the only human encampment that's left, which is a theory that I have, and I think it's a theory that everyone's like, oh, I've read the manga, and shh, I haven't read it. Don't want to yet. I'll read it when the next anime comes out. I think that that for their survival and their continued existence, and however else you'd like to say the same thing over and over again, yes, I think that they had very little choice. It's not made clear as to whether or not there's anywhere that they could migrate to where it would be safer, so we don't know if they, continue for 5 years in this direction, whether it's any better or not.
And I'm with Mike. Like, you see the point of the characters are like, no, we need to get past the wall, but they're also looking at it from a perspective of, like, the wall's all they know. When you look at it from, like, a generational thing, the wall worked for 100 years. Like, it saved countless lives. And only when the abnormals came into being and that were able to actually break down the wall did it become an issue, but they just weren't planning for that. So I think under the circumstances, if I were like a political leader or something and found that the world was now, like there was an apex predator that was all about us, I'd be like, yeah, let's form a wall.
Yeah.
Pretty realistic, yeah.
And
I
also,
think it's an interesting thing to say. Like, there's some cultural critic once said that, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he said, like, every culture kind of builds a wall around itself, either ideologically or sometimes in reality.
yeah.
But it's only cultures that have some commerce with what's beyond the wall that can survive, because eventually they'll just die off behind those walls. And every culture that has ever died off has been an isolationist culture. And so eventually, which leads into questions, well, maybe the abnormals are the humans that are like, no, it's the only way we can evolve. I don't know,
Yeah.
they don't tell me, blah, 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 blah. But it raises a good question of, like, walls serve their purpose, but they come at a price, always.
And another interesting aspect as far as like theories is that they do specifically say in the show that it was about 100 years.
Yeah.
And they have that many gigantic walls covering that much territory. That's pretty quick of putting those walls up.
Yeah.
There's probably something to that too. Yeah.
I agree.
It's an interesting thing to think about, though. Like,
It
if
is,
you were
yeah.
living in that world, would you want to be behind a wall, or would you want to be out in the wilderness where there's nowhere to hide when one of them comes
Well, that's
up?
exactly it, is that
You
they
know?
don't have any place
Yeah.
to hide. So that's exactly why I think it's a safe idea and realistic to build a wall and stay
Right.
behind that.
Yeah,
So.
and they explore that in The Walking Dead all the time too, because they've had safe places to live at least twice now. I think 3 times now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always necessarily make things better, but it does, like, I don't know, as a viewer, it makes the show kind of boring. Season 2, where they're safe on the farm, I almost stopped watching because
Everyone's like-
you took away all the element that I liked, which is them being chased and killing things. They're safe now.
Show me the blood!
The show's called The Walking Dead, not the sitting on your ass living.
Yeah. But I realized that would be the goal too. I was just like, oh, they got to the finish line pretty quick for me as a viewer.
question.
Lauren, pick a question.
Okay, in the corner over there.
Question. So, what is your personal take on what's in the basement?
Oh my God.
Personal take on what's. I recuse myself from answering that question for reasons I will not go into.
For me, the straight up, like if it's this, it seems that's a little bit too much of the obvious choice. It would be all of the science and research behind what can make a person turn into a Titan. But if it's something more than that, then that would be neat. Because otherwise it'd be like, I wonder what it is. Like, well, they researched it and they didn't do it in the house, so that's probably what it is.
That's what I think it is, at least. Yeah, the history behind the Titans and what makes Eren turn into a Titan and all of that stuff.
And other folks turn into Titans too.
And awkwardly, Dr. Yeager's porn stash.
Yes.
Look, the secret's in. Oh.
Blow up dolls. What? Well, I mean,
There was no hard drives back in that time.
It's all print.
All print.
All print. Stacks.
He does
Stacks of
say.
Play Titan.
He does say to him, "If you're a good boy, I'll show you what's in the cellar."
Maybe it's beer, guys. You think it's just like it's alcohol? Like he had like a distillery down there. He's like, this is the best.
It's
stuff.
like it's a PS4 and a 1080p television.
What is that?
It's a spaceship.
Yeah. It's the TARDIS.
The host club.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Titans will hear you. Welcome to the host club. No one in the host club would live longer than an episode. In that universe. Not even. Kyoyu would be so busy trying to save everyone else from themselves, he would be the first to go.
Titan, are you sure you want to eat Usa-chan?
Titan would eat Usa-chan and then get a cavity. I just picture like a Titan destroying the pink clock tower. And then, rah, rah, the clock tower.
When are you making that show?
Haruhi's dad should be everything in that universe.
Can we see that?
Ranka,
Ronka, I want Ronka to be like, Scout Regiment.
Commander Erwin.
Commander. It's so awesome.
I wouldn't want to mess with Ronka. I really wouldn't. Michael, pick somebody.
Hanji.
Yes, finally. Okay.
Are we gonna bring
Okay. If you guys could bring back any character in the show that previously died, who would it be? John, if you don't say Marco, I'm gonna be very disappointed in you.
Someone has pre-selected my answer for me.
No, this isn't The Price is Right. You want our answers, you'll get our answers.
Yes.
$1. Yeah. Like I said earlier, as the writer, though, there's pretty much I would want to bring back everyone because you get kind of vested in all of them. I'm like, I don't want anyone to die. Well, except that one guy. He was an asshole.
Except that one guy.
But everyone else I really like.
I never know the answer to this question because it's always so difficult. There's always so many.
Well, Annie's best friend was Mina. Would you possibly? She's
Is this
minor
manga?
character. No, this
No,
is in
Mina's
the
in the
actual
show.
anime.
Mina's
Like,
in the
trust
show?
me. She's this minor character.
Mina is Alexis.
No.
Oh, okay.
Mina
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but that's
Too busy killing everyone else.
Yeah, Annie.
I got a busy life,
Which
man.
one do I want to bring back?
She doesn't eat
That one
them.
was pretty tasty.
She never eats anybody.
I know she doesn't. No,
Except for
no.
Aaron.
No, she didn't eat him.
She
She
just held him
carries
in her
him.
mouth.
She carries him. I know this.
I know this too.
She carries him in her mouth because she's busy using her hands to swipe the other people away and banging people against tree trunks and whatnot.
I love how you're like, I never ate anyone. I just killed them, okay? I just killed them.
Honestly, regardless of my joke, I would really like to bring back the Levi Squad.
Yes, I am satisfied with that.
That's 3 or 4
Doesn't
people.
matter. Because in that one scene where Levi sees his squad dead is the one moment where we see emotion from Levi. And it is absolutely heartbreaking. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I killed your people. But not really.
Character-wise, I'm sure Marco. Mike McFarland, the director, watching the show-wise, if I had to just pick one person, it would probably be Petra.
Yeah.
Not only is she a really awesome character, but I would just like to have seen what might happen that she had hopes for.
Yeah. Oh, that scene where he comes back and her father goes up to him. And he's like, well, I was kind of hoping, she was kind of, oh my God, break my heart.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
That's why I picked Petra.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your turn to pick, I think.
Oh, my turn to pick? In the middle, right over here with, yes,
Okay, before I begin, Mr. Tatum, you're my senpai and I want you to notice me.
Are there any responsibilities involved in being your senpai? Like, do I need to work? Because you're going to be very disappointed. I make a very bad senpai.
My question is, which character do you each think is most like yourselves and why?
Ooh, yeah.
That's a good question.
Ooh! Ooh, burn!
Yeah, boom.
Good question.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Someone else answer.
It's I don't know, like for me it's a mishmash of several things because they're very like the characters, a lot of the characters in the show are like we're going to centralize on one emotional state or one driving force about them, and that becomes what that character's all about. I think if I had to pick, I think I would actually pick Jean.
I can see that though.
Yeah,
I can see that.
about my personality and his personality, for the same reasons of like, oh, we have all these options, even if I'm really good and I don't have to go do that, that's what I want to do. And then slowly as you weigh that option out and you see what happens to everybody else, I'm like, well, if I have the ability to help people and I don't do it, then I'm kind of a jerk. So I should work on that and switch that around.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what I would do.
His arc, incidentally, is my favorite.
Mine too. He grows a lot throughout the show.
It's a great example of a character that how you feel about them in the beginning is so vastly different than where you end up with them, and it's
Like,
such
well, that guy's
great
a
drama.
douche. Oh wait, okay, I love it. Well, Jean's one of my favorite characters, so. But yeah, definitely. I would.
Well, he grows on you.
He does. Well, especially in I think it's the last episode where they're fighting against the no, they're not fighting. They're trying to get Annie, pretty sure. And you're running past some MPs on the rooftop, and Jean says, "Wow, I can't believe I used to want to be them." I'm like, there you go, Jean. Good for you.
I'm a big kid now.
I agree with you. Like, my personality kind of, matches with a lot of different characters. Like, a part of me is like Sasha, a part of me is like Connie, a part of me is like Jean, a part of me is like Annie when I'm super, super pissed. I found out that that's where that voice came from. I'm like, I know I've heard this before, but it doesn't often come out. That's when I'm super, super, super PO'd, so.
The Sasha part of you wants that box of donuts.
Yes, it does! It so does.
Even though they're not potatoes.
They're not potatoes.
There's probably a potato in there.
There's your OTP, Sasha and potato.
Yes!
One true potato.
Sasha's middle name is, are you going to finish that? You going to finish that?
Having thought, there's so many characters in there, and they're all so interesting. But I think I have to imagine myself like in that universe, and I think the kind of person I would probably be if it wasn't Jean, which I relate a lot to him too.
Yeah.
I think just because
I think he's the most relatable to the viewer.
Yeah.
He's very human.
Yeah.
He's very, very human.
But I think if I didn't, I don't want to take that answer because we've already had that out there. But I think Hanji would be mine because I'd be the weird. Because I'd be the weird one that's like, I know it's creepy, but let's go look.
You would be so pissed if I killed your baby.
I'd be like you killed my aunt. True story. So the whole thing about Sonny Bean, right? Sonny and Bean.
Yes.
Right. So the whole story she tells about the Scottish, like the whatever, blah blah. That's a real thing. You can look that up. That's real history. My mother's a genealogist, who's someone who looks up family history, and she's really really good at it. She's done it for like 50 years, and so she's traced us all the way back, and we come from as far as back as she can trace us. We come from the same village in coastal Scotland where the Sonny Bean clan came from. So I'm like,
I promise I won't kill you.
well, no, please don't. But
No one
I
kills
would be less
Hanji.
like Hanji because I think I think a lot of Hanji's character is a coping mechanism for just distress. Like she's always like she's not that she's in denial, or I shouldn't say she or he because we don't really. Hanji is sort of
Hanji's Hanji.
Hanji is Hanji. But Hanji thinks like I feel like the whimsical nature, the kind of mad scientist thing is something I relate to because I also feel that it's a kind of a reaction formation to the reality that they're in. So everything is kind of like, I know it's terrible, but I'm going to make this as exciting as possible because it's the only way I can get to the other day.
There are a few moments of Hanji that I absolutely love, and one of them is in the last scene where, you know, she's like, like she's got that crazy eye, and her lieutenant or something's like, you got that look in your eye. Something bad's gonna. And then the moment where they capture Annie, like Hanji's personality completely changes, and
That's
she's
pretty dark.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna cut you up," and I'm like, "Oh, Hanji! This is awesome!" So, yeah, Hanji's awesome. And Jessica does an amazing job as Hanji.
Yes.
So,
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she did.
I think it's my turn.
It's your turn to pick.
Friend, right here.
Alright, so like the end credit scene where we see the wall and it like crumbles and you see something in there. What is your take on that? How is that gonna go to the second season?
Well, much like when I mentioned earlier about like for the time frame of when the show takes place, of like 100 years ago, and like then you made a lot of walls in a very short amount of time. I think that ties into it. I think that ties into it, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. I mean,
No, that's it. Yeah.
I have a theory about it.
Yeah, and you know, I've already stated that I haven't read the manga
I
going
haven't
further or
either.
whatever, because I want the information to stay fresh whenever the next season comes out, and hopefully we still get to work on it and do all the nice things that all the stars align. So, yeah.
I have some ideas. I want to share them. They might not just be ideas. But yeah, it's like that ending is like you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like you're like, what is what? Mind blown.
But that's Attack on Titan, you know, in a nutshell, pretty much. It's like, okay, something happens, nothing happens, something happens, last 10 seconds. What? What?
To be continued. No.
Episode 6? Come on.
Yeah.
That was cruel. That was incredibly cruel.
And I, knowing that the whole show was going to pretty much finish its run in Japan before I had to start production in English, I waited to watch it. I knew that I was going to be the director, but I went ahead and waited to watch it until I could watch it all at once.
Right.
I don't know how and some of you guys probably watched it that way too. I don't know how you watched it week to week like that. Oh my God.
Josh did.
Oh.
I
know a lot of people like it because I think it was one of the Funimation streaming shows, and you could watch it on their subtitles. But for those folks and for the folks in Japan who you have to wait a week to week to week to week.
Yeah. Torture.
Because I think I watched all of it in 2 days.
Yep.
And some people are like, I watched it all in a day. I'm like, well, I did, but I watched it in 2. Yeah.
I watched it in 2 hours. I know how I did that.
I watched it and I texted these two while I was watching it because I had not seen it.
Yeah.
So, and
That was fun.
I had little story, and Mike's probably sick to death of hearing this story, but so I auditioned for Attack on Titan, and I auditioned for a bunch of different characters, including Armin, because as you guys know, Armin is played by a female Seiyu actress.
Marina anyway.
Yes, and she's amazing. And so a couple days later, Mike called me and he said, hey, so at the time, by the way, I had not seen the show, didn't know anything about it. Mike gives me a call and he says, so we just want to let you know, that we decided that we want to cast you as Annie. Oh, cool! That's awesome. That's awesome, Michael. That's awesome. That's really great.
And it was like, you traveling and that's cool and all that kind of stuff and get all this out of the way. And then,
Yeah, and then for a brief moment, he's just like, have you seen the show? Do you know what the show's about? I'm like, no, I'm not familiar with it. I just know that it's a big show. That's all I know. And he's just like, well, okay, here's the thing about Annie. She starts off as a side character, but she gets bigger later. I think that deserves a round of applause. And of course, I didn't get it till later, but then as I'm watching the show, when it's revealed that she's the female Titan, I texted Mike, and my exact text was, Annie, female Titan, WTF! And Mike's response, do you remember what it was? It was, there's been a few here and there. There's been a few female Titans here and there. I'm like, no, really? Are you sure? Really? So funny. So he's like, yep, that's true.
Not a lot. Yeah, when there's like raiding the city in the beginning, whatever else, if you look really closely, there's one or two. They're not as defined, I guess is the right word, as Annie's, but there are different, definitely there somewhere.
It's creepy. And then I texted this guy over here, and his response was just, yep. Whose turn is it to pick somebody? I think it's yours. Yes.
In the very back.
And is this a 1 hour panel? Is that correct? Okay, cool. We got time for a few more.
So which question?
Have you guys gotten any word if you guys are going to be helping do the dub for the live action?
I have not received word on that. I know that Funimation has licensed those live action films, and I know that that they're doing a theatrical run on the two films, and I hope that a lot of you guys go see them. The theatrical run for sure is subtitled because it's happening so soon. There's no way that we would have it. We would have already done it. So I could say, hey, we did it, and it's going to be there. So the theatrical run is going to be subtitled for sure. I don't know. To me, like, live action dub is very different from animation dub.
Different.
Animation dub, because we're dealing with mouth movements that are drawn and specific characters, stuff like that, instead of like a fully functional human mouth. It's okay to dub something into the language for animation because you can do it in multiple languages, and as long as you pay really close attention to what's going on and get the context of what's going on, it can look and sound really good. Live action dubbing, no matter what you do, it's not going to look and sound really good.
Nope.
It's going to have the right content, and you're going to start and end on time, but the mouth, you have to for people who watch dubbed live action stuff, probably for the first 5 to 10 minutes of watching the movie, you have to really concentrate on not making the connection of what their mouth is doing versus what they're saying, and just kind of get into some sort of zen zone of just okay, that guy's face, and that's what he sounds like, and just don't pay attention to the mouth.
Very true.
So, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not, what I'm saying is I'm not clamoring to make sure that we dub the live action version of those films. But I can't wait to see them because I've heard that they're awesome, and I've heard that they are approached as horror films instead of straight up action adventure shonen boy stuff. So
They're apparently very different from the anime show as well, so it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's enough of a different thing to where you can appreciate it for being just its own entity, and I just want to appreciate it because it's a horror movie. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I think it's your turn.
No. Let's see. Right over here.
Okay, first question. What
Okay.
did you feel when you first saw the Titans? And also second question, which theme song gets you more pumped up?
Oh, okay. So when I first saw the Titans, what did I think about them?
Feel.
Oh, what did I feel about them? Anxious, nauseated, uneasy. Terrified is not the right word because I'm watching it and it's not happening to me. Those are good. I'm fine with those words.
The first time I saw the Titans was in the theme song where it's like the lens is all bloody, and you see the Titans walking through the wall and the little one like that, That kind of freaked me out, and I was like, this is gonna be a disturbing show. Just taking a guess. And the first song gets me super pumped up. What about you? The first.
Oh, the songs?
Yeah.
Man, it's so hard for me to pick between those songs. It used to just be the easy answer of the first one. Just because, when you start watching the show, you get so used to that theme song, and then as you get like 3 or 4 episodes into it, it's one of the shows where you don't skip the theme song. You're like, let that thing rock.
Yeah.
I do my little show dance as the show's getting ready to start, because that's the jam. And then when they switch over, it's immediately knee-jerking because it starts off as a military march, and you're like, dude, where is my German screaming awesomeness? Yeah, and we go ba 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 ba. What? And then as you continue watching it, that theme song, you become very attached to it as well. And then the military march, as weird as it is, right when you initially hear it the first time, you start going, yes, that's right, that's the Levi Squad, that's their song, man. So I'm torn. I think like if you just do a needle drop on the song and just play like the first 5 or 6 seconds of it, the first song is the one that's going to get me. But from beginning to end, they're kind of tied for me.
I mean, the second, I enjoy both, but the one that gets me pumped is the first one. The second one, as Mike was saying, to me it's just very moving and very, because the show at that point is getting way darker than it was in the beginning, and so, yeah, first one for me.
Yeah, first one for me too, definitely, because that's your introduction of the show, and you never like that. It's such a great introduction because it really kind of captures the spirit of that world, and you're like immediately sucked in. How did I feel when I first saw the Titans? I think I felt with them, I was like just freaked out. I thought my feeling, just kind of stepping back from it, was what an interesting and fascinatingly effective creation, because they're truly disturbing. They're not. I mean, they're giants, and giants are a very old trope. They've been around forever. We all have read Jack and the Beanstalk, stuff like that. But these giants are weird, especially the ones that have that oddly disconcerting, serene expression on their face. That gets me, because they're causing so much mayhem, but they're like, hey. And it's like, God almighty, just like that really it kind of makes me feel like I just wish I had that zen. Like, wow, I kind of envy the Titans in a way. When you see them, they're they're good old-fashioned nightmare fuel. I actually find the abnormals, the Colossal and Annie, to be less. Yeah, sorry, not the abnormals. The
Titan
shifters.
I find those to be really cool, but far less disturbing. I think, like, for me, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. But if I see someone cosplaying any of those Titans, I'm like, that's cool. That's so badass. If I see someone cosplaying one of the, like, Sonny or Bean, that's freaky, because their faces are like, and there's something about that face that's like, I'm gonna kill you. And you're like,
They're my babies.
I'm back and forth on that, because I think the ones with the exposed muscle tissue are kind of freaky looking.
They are freaky, and I think they're really cool, but they don't, for some reason, they just don't.
They don't have the glazed over look, but there is something about like the look. They're like, oh, it's not glazed over, and that's kind of terrifying too. That there's some sort of sentiency behind it, and
they've got a determination and an idea and a plan. You're like, oh, that's disturbing.
Yeah,
I think
they're both creepy.
I think the Titans that creep me out the most are one, the Titan that eats Aaron's mom, and
the Joker smile one.
The Joker smile one, and then the one that's in the field doing the spider walk. That's nightmare fuel.
Oh, the crab walk.
Crab walk, yeah. That's just who knows?
Can we all just talk about naked Santa Claus for a moment? Naked Santa Claus. I'm like, really?
Jerry Garcia, is that you?
There's also the one that's like super short and super angry. That one.
Yeah.
I think the one that almost kills Mikasa. I think, is that the one? Yeah, gets super angry and starts chasing Mikasa. So, all them Titans, they freaky. Another question.
We got time for like 2 more questions.
Okay, on the end right here. Yes, you.
Okay, so we do see the characters put through a lot of emotionally crushing things, like watching your mom being beaten, or even a backstory of a squad leader. But if you grew up in that world, how do you think you would really connect yourself and not give up?
Wow, that's a good question.
I don't know, like, cause the bulk of society hasn't necessarily given up. They have just built those walls up, and they're just not trying. Like, to me, there's a difference between giving up, like that means that you've put forth a lot of effort, and then like this is just not going to happen. But there are people from birth who've just lived behind the wall. They're like, oh, we just don't go out there.
Yeah.
And they've just given up in that capacity as far as like.
They haven't really given up. So much.
Yeah, it's not given up.
Just adapted. To
yeah, they were brought up to just not. That's not even. Yeah, there's nothing that they're trying to achieve.
But like once the wall's down and it's anybody's game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I could. And that's the thing. Getting back to like just having so much violence and just everything being about survival, that there's no time to even think about what your motives are. I think most of the characters just go on instinct because that's all they've got. Every episode you see every other possible coping mechanism they have to deal with this horrible reality is just stripped away as the people they love die, or as they lose, their squad or whatever, and so it's just sheer instinct that gets them, and then maybe anger. I think I relate also to Aaron. I think I would be very angry, like especially if I had just seen all this going on. I would be my anger would probably keep me going to a point, but then I think at some point it just wouldn't even be about why I'm doing it. I would just be on survival autopilot, and I think most people would get there to that point, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
It's hard to say when you're not actually in that situation, I guess. So for me, I have no idea. I don't know what I would do because there's not a lot you can do in that world. So, yeah, depressing.
Yes, one final question.
One final question. Who's got to go?
It's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Final question.
Oh my goodness. Okay, the fingers that are twirling.
You with the fingers and the twirling.
No, in the back. Blonde, over here. Stand up.
Oh, standing up. Oh, yeah.
No, over here, in this.
Where?
Oh my God, fine, in the back.
Annie's coming out now.
So what about each of your individual characters you resonate with the most, and then what do you find most different between yourself personally and then the characters you face?
Let's see what I resonate with the most. Trina doesn't like me. No. The same reason that I can relate to him, Jean, as a character. The aspect of if I try hard enough and am good enough at what I think I can achieve, that I don't have to risk my own life. And then assessing the situation, realizing that I can contribute to society if I choose not to take that lifestyle. I relate to that. What was the second half of your question?
What do you find most different about yourself and your character that maybe made it difficult to voice them?
I don't have a horse face. I'm a lot more even keel than Jean is. I don't fly off the handle. And when I do, it's really bad and no one should be around, because that means that I've been under pressure a long time, because I hold my game pretty well.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
For me, when I get super pissed off, I sound like Annie.
Imagine
and when I imagine that, that's really how honestly, that's really how I kind of match her, is that I can understand where her anger comes from sometimes, and there are days where I just want to be like her and just be numb and not really just relax, the resting bitch face all day. But how I'm not like her is I don't kill people. I don't.
That we know of.
We don't want to talk about
Love you, mean it. I think I relate to Irving in the sense that in a situation like where things are intense and there's a lot of chaos, my first instinct is to try to manage it in some way. So I'll be like, all right, everyone's freaking out. You go here, you do this, that tends to be, with varying degrees of success, just where I go. The way I'm least like him is his poise, and he's such a cipher. You don't know what he's thinking, and he keeps it so close to the vest. And I'm not so much like that. In fact, I'd be like, everyone, here's my plan, and here's the PowerPoint presentation. I'm very, very just kind of wear it all outside. So that I wish I had that poise. I wish I had that poker face. Kind of wish I had those eyebrows, really.
they're nice eyebrows.
Those are sexy eyebrows. I'm a sucker for eyebrows.
You've told me this before, but the fire scene is, fire. That's the scene.
That's
that
the
you
first
realize.
scene when you're watching that. For me, anyway, when I was first watching that, the scene where he finally the thing about Irving for the first half of that show, he's not really around. You see him in the very beginning, and then he doesn't really come in until later. And when he comes in, he's really mysterious. Like you don't trust him at first. You're like, what are you about? I don't know. And there's a couple scenes.
I didn't trust him.
And there's a couple of scenes that are designed to kind of throw you off balance with him. Like, is he good? Is he bad? Does he know more that he's telling us?
I'm going to whisper secret things to you and then walk off.
And, so, and everything leading up to the forest and the scene with Annie when that confrontation finally happens for the first and is really intense because you do not, as much as you want to trust the leader of the scout regiment, you can't because you're just like, he's not telling us anything. We don't know. He's an utter just stone-faced bastard. And then, but when the chips are down and he finally just yells fire and it's his most intense line at that point, and because everything else, that's the moment where you're like, oh, thank God, he's good. There's something about that particular line that communicates to you, okay, he's on our side, he's good, and we were right to, and yeah, he becomes like the prince of the forest then.
That's my theory.
And while you brought up that line, I just wanted to point out this little behind the scenes thing. We recorded that line a few times, even just that one word of fire. And even though Michael had written the show and had seen the whole thing, I wanted, as the director, I wanted to remind him, this fire is not just the fire of Erwin and this group of scouts or anything like that. This is everyone who's watching the show that's going, kill her, hurt her. You have to have that much when you say fire, and that's when we finally got that last take. I'm like, that's the one. That sounds like
so great.
F you, Annie.
I had a water bottle and I was like,
spike it.
So we didn't mention this at the beginning of the panel, guys, but if you have something for us to sign, we will not be signing it tonight. We have autograph signings tomorrow.
Yeah, we have to flip the room for the next
Yes, so please come see us then. Please don't bum rush us with stuff to sign. We cannot sign it right now.
we gotta go pee.
So, did you guys have fun?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so very much for coming. Please enjoy the rest of NDK.
We gotta clear the room for the next panel, guys.
thank you guys for coming.